Right then, people, commentary time for this one. So, yeah, it just seems to be a running theme here where pretty much probably 50% of the back days are commentaries. So, I've just played the first clip here. As you can see, I'm starting off with a lat pullover machine. Going crazy heavy for me. I think I had on this one at least 70 kilos each side. So, total weight there is 150. And I'm not going as slow as perhaps some of my sets, but I'd say the control for me is still very, very good. And then, as you can see here, I'm playing it on ×4 speed just because the set's quite long and there's not really too much to look out for in terms of like form, etc. But just for reference of how many reps I did, it's good to keep it in here. So yeah, this was a fantastic first exercise for me. I think being able to work my lats when I'm fresh and not like completely exhaust myself in other areas like my lower back and perhaps my core and other things like that, it really helps me to work this first. I found that if I put it like later in the session, I just don't get as much of a good connection. So I'd always recommend you guys to use a lifting belt with this one. As you'll see me do pretty much every single set that I do on here, just keeps me so much more supported and stable basically. So yeah, this one is probably my second set out of 3. I rarely do more than 3 sets, if ever, to be honest. And sometimes I'll just call it at 2. I find that that helps me a lot for kind of longevity with the exercise and not forcing myself to do too many sets, or at least, unnecessary sets. So there is an argument for forcing yourself to do exercises and movements, but if you can get the volume elsewhere, or if you're really not enjoying it, it's just not going to be a very efficient way for you to spend your time, especially not for weeks, if not months on end. You might be at the end of a training split or in the depths of a diet, and then things feel less enjoyable for you. And that is when sometimes it just pays to have that discipline or have a coach that says, no, actually, you do need to do this exercise, or you have neglected this muscle group. But if you do have a relatively open-minded approach to training and you can kind of limit yourself accordingly, then I think you can basically make adjustments for what exercises not only work for you, but you also enjoy. So for me, I've been trying to do a lot more rows recently because I was neglecting those, and yeah, basically just having the discipline to add those in at some point during the session. At least I'd say every other back day, or at the very least 1 in 3, I'll make sure I'm doing some pretty heavy rows with some good scapular retraction, and I'd say this is a good prime example of that here. So I've switched up the grip. Something that I literally rarely ever do is a really wide grip pull through here on the cable. So this one is working a lot of my rear delts and kind of my mid and upper back there, which did feel pretty good, to be honest. Not absolutely insane, but it is a nice working set and definitely a different range of motion. I think on this one you can really engage and kind of visualize pulling with your elbows. But yeah, definitely find a lot of rear delts on this one for me, which for most people probably wouldn't be a bad thing, because I do find that a lot of people's rear delts are pretty underdeveloped, but I think mine are a bit ahead of the game, especially when it comes to my delts. So yeah, I'm still obviously going to push to failure on this one, but I think here probably only filmed 2 sets, and that perhaps was as many as I did. So this exercise here I find insane for the stretch. As you can see, I'm really leaning forward there, and obviously I've got pretty long arms, so I can get really, really close to the actual cable itself. But for any of you guys that are trying this, I would say that, if you've been doing it for a while and you've built that confidence and you do feel able to, getting a little extra stretch after each rep does not only just engage the back more, in my opinion, but it also allows you to kind of catch your breath a little bit. So I'd say for me, cable row and just any sort of bent over row or chestboard row is where I have to really place an emphasis and like consciously think about my breathing pattern, because the last thing I want to do is have to cool the set because I'm out of breath. So yeah, moving on now to a lat pull down, which I rarely have trouble with breathing on this one, because as you can see, there's nothing right pressing up against my stomach or my core there, so I can kind of inflate my diaphragm and get some air into my lungs with ease, versus if you've got a belt or something to keep that core tight, which can really, really help, keep your lower back nice and secure and keep that intra-abdominal pressure tight, which can help distribute strength, demonstrate strength during a lift, but also execute the lift safely. Because if you've got a good tight core, that means that the muscles are less likely to kind of just get pushed out of place and tweak or pull something, whether that be a hernia, which has happened to me before, or whether that be a lower back injury or anything really. It can all be related, and oftentimes when you find injuries within people and their workouts, it's not just one thing that's caused it. It could be a knock-on effect, and other muscle groups that are attached to that specific group of muscles, or if it's rotator cuffs, or if it's like one side of your body, that can perhaps originate, for example, in the wrist, and then it can go up to the elbow, to the shoulder, and vice versa for the lower body. So just something to keep an eye on there, and another reason why you guys should would be practicing like stretching, full range of motion, and just basically longevity. Obviously, I'm not saying like to make that a huge part of your lifting journey or your daily workouts, etc., but at least a little bit of conscious thought will help and will basically send you in the right direction. So yeah, after that one, moving on to rear delt flies. So these are pretty, boring to watch really. I'm probably going to speed this up when I actually post this video, but basically I'm just cranking it out on here, starting off with a heavy weight, and then I'll either have a decent amount of rest time and try and keep it there, but just slowly reduce the reps by like a couple each set. Or if I'm in a bit of a rush or I'm not really feeling that, what I'll just do is have less rest time, so maybe up to 90 seconds, and then I'll just intentionally drop the weight each set. So both of those work really well for me, and I find that by alternating that style, I don't get too bored or kind of fixated in the same rhythm and routine. So yeah, these are not a weakness for me, but I still do like to do them pretty much 95% of back days. The only time I'll leave them is if I'm in a rush or if there's no machines free. But in the past, when I have been trying to specifically grow these, I would place huge emphasis on them, and I wouldn't necessarily wait until the end of my session. I'd probably put them somewhere in the middle. So not only do I ensure that I'm not going to skip them, because obviously if you've put an exercise at the end of the workout and the gym's busy, etc., you've got more chance to miss that. Whereas if you do it in the middle, you're going to be a bit more switched on and probably less likely to skip it, but also having the actual energy and the mental focus to be able to, isolate that muscle and work it as well as possible. So yeah, onto the pose down now. This one is in the same location as normal, but just the lights were off, so thought we'd try it here. And pretty much you can see a very, very slightly progress since last check-in, I'd say, with the abs, and especially around the obliques there, that is getting a little bit more visible, I would say. And these changes, guys, they are going to be minuscule. Like if you're looking at 1 week progress photo and then 4 weeks later, it would be a lot easier for me to kind of outline the changes. But obviously when we're looking at video footage and it's different muscle groups each time, and every single day means that the changes are going to be less evident, that's when it just kind of is a bit more of a personal thing, and probably you'll notice the changes within yourself a lot easier and a lot faster than someone else. Keep track of your workouts, keep track of your progress, keep track of your physique, and basically just make sure that you're not just recording yourself post workout, but also you can take some physique photos if possible in your bathroom or in your bedroom, somewhere where you've got some decent natural lighting, and basically it just wants to be repeatable. So if it's something you can replicate, then that's great. If you're constantly moving around the house, different lighting conditions, different kind of environments, it's just not really going to be able to reflect the true physique update basically. So yeah, that's pretty much all for me, guys. Hope you enjoy this little video. It's quite a short one, but obviously, as you can see, there was a lot of heavy lifting in that. And yeah, mostly when I film these clips, I'll only film kind of 1 or 2 working sets out of the perhaps 3 or 4 that I did. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Next one, I can't remember what it is. I think it might be a leg day. But yeah, either way, guys, enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one. The only way is up.